Welcome to another episode of Cultivate. This is a show about you and your journey in the cannabis industry. It's moving fast, but there's room for everyone. Buckle up as we bring you the people and the technology that are blazing the trail. Welcome to another episode of Cultivate Live. I am grateful to have a dear friend from Oklahoma on the show today. His name is Larry Reed. Larry Reed, known as Man on Weed. Larry, how are you, brother?
Oh, I'm finer than a frog hair split four ways, Drew. How are you this evening?
So Oklahoma.
Yes, to Oklahoma, baby.
Oh, that's good.
What we're all about. Oh,
nice
yeah.
to see you. So we pay attention as we travel the world to promote Boveda to the cannabis industry, and we meet some pretty awesome people in the cannabis industry. And one of the things that we tend to judge the cannabis industry by, and it's been really consistent ever since we got involved about 13 years ago, the underlying ethic is kindness. And Larry Reed showed up at our booth one day. I don't even remember what show. You might remember.
What? Sometime in 17 maybe or something like that.
He shows up with his own microphone and camera. He's got a weed suit on. He's gregarious, outgoing. As you can tell by the dulcet sounds of his voice, he's a broadcast professional from way back. And we just hit it off. He's a guy that has gone out of his way to promote the cannabis industry in Oklahoma and around the country. And I wanted to check in with you because you got something exciting coming up that we'll talk about a little later in a few weeks, that Chronic Palooza 3 is happening in Oklahoma. And the state of the cannabis industry in Oklahoma, can you give us a little thumbnail about how things are going?
Sure. We're in the midst of the legislature coming to tighten down the screws on us. If you follow the weed trends out there in the world, we have the most open medical program, inviting to everybody to get involved, even out-of-staters. They can get involved too. The licensing is a mere $2,500 to get in, whether it be a processor, grower, or dispensary, and you can vertically integrate there, which is the most logical thing that's happening out there now.
So just for perspective, the $2,500 in Oklahoma compares to about a $250,000 bill in California.
Yeah, with the $2,500, it's unlimited. There's no canopy limits as of today. Whereas I believe in California, that $250,000 would only get you a certain, maybe a half acre or an acre worth of land, and so or canopy. And so they've done it differently here, thanks to the folks from the legislative 788, which was a state question that passed that enabled all this to happen. And what's taking place now is the legislature getting hungry, I guess, to do something. They figure they have to do something, so they're trying to put forth caps, and which is kind of an interesting. They want to put a moratorium on any new business for 2 years, and then set a bar that until the business drops below that bar, they weren't going to add any more licenses, which totally defeats the purpose of the 788 to begin with. Like in California, like in all the other states, the legislature tends to come in and try to fix something that's not broken. And so, as you've known, as we've been graced by your presence here in Oklahoma, that y'all supporting us, we've got a real homegrown lobby group that we were at the Capitol last Sunday. We're only a state of 3 million people, so our 400,000 medical patients are loud. We're probably the biggest body in the state.
Well, that's cool. I mean, and if you look at the stats, according to some of the research I did before we came on the show, 2020 numbers for Oklahoma, $800 million worth of cannabis sales. 6,000 new jobs, a total of 17,000 jobs in the cannabis industry estimated in the state of Oklahoma. That's just fascinating. And if you take the number of patients, last count, the number of patients, at least that I could find, was 235,786. That's people with cards. At least that's what the article told me. And that means that they spent, on average in 2020, about $3,300 per cardholder.
Wow.
That's a spectacular business. I got to tell you, I love Oklahoma.
It's great.
And I got a number of reasons for it. It's kind of like Minnesota. The way they talk about Minnesotans is it's Minnesota nice. And Minnesotans are, hardworking Midwesterners. That's the same kind of ethic that you run into in Oklahoma. And there is this love of freedom. I mean, it is the most wonderfully libertarian state that I think I've ever been into. I haven't been to Alaska. I hear Alaska's a lot like that. But Oklahoma, the people that we meet at the shows tend to be extremely kind, cordial. Nobody's trying to prove anything to anybody. They're just all excited about the industry. It's really a fantastic market. Now, to give you a comparison, in California, which is considered to be the cannabis culture home of this country, they have 600 or so cannabis dispensaries in a state that's approaching 40 million people. In Oklahoma, where Larry just said they have about 3 million people, 2,200 dispensaries.
Now, those are licenses. Not all of them are open.
So how many of them do you think are open ballpark? Half of them?
At least.
Even if half of the licenses are open, they're still twice as big as what's happening in California in terms of access, people having the ability to walk into a store, to consult with somebody about their circumstances and what kind of relief they're looking for, to have recommendations from people about trying different things that are available. How is it when you walk? You've been in stores all over the country. I know you get around. How does Oklahoma compare to other store fronts when you walk into an Oklahoma dispensary?
We're still in deli style, so you can still go and buy non-prepackaged, non-CO2.
So you can smell your weed before you buy it. What a concept.
And if they're smart, they've got Bovida packs in there, so it always stays fresh.
Oh, you're too kind.
Because that is one of the things. Like it's a very interesting space because we're the recipients of the brain drain of the cannabaggers that got shut out in California, that got shut out in Washington, that got shut out, name all the states. And so they've arrived here saying, for $2,500, I'm going to get mine this time. And so you go in there and you see the full array of dispensaries, from the mom and pop that are just starting out, that don't really get a grasp, to Cookies just opened 3 places in the state. And awesome. So they're marketing geniuses. They're the forefront. Cali Roots is here. And they come in. But the great thing is that you have that variety, and you also still have mom and pop. You still have Green Plus, and you still have Tumbleweed and Elite Leaf, and all the mom and pa's. And one of the great things about the state, really, and probably the same thing in Minnesota and a lot of the small regions, people buy from people.
Right.
They know these people, and I'm going to go down to his store and buy some cannabis, or and then just for the patient benefit, if you don't like one in one store, you go patronize another one. You don't like that one, go there. Whereas, like in Las Vegas, it's one of the biggest mind plays is you only got 1 or 2 dispensaries you can go to, or it's going to cost you a $50 cab ride to get on the other side of town, and your choices are so limited. One of the things that I get on is, if you're going to limit the amount of dispensaries, limit the amount of hamburger places first, limit the amount of ice cream stands, limit the amount of, they're not limiting CVS or, Walgreens or,
No. And if they're trying to do it from the ethic of preventing, why are they doing it? Is the play to say that this is a health care, trying to take care of people, or is it just a typical?
It's just a typical
thing.
Yeah, legislative control. They think it's getting out of hand. They think that the black market is being fortified because of all the cannabis being produced there. You have some business owners that are crying, that are saying, "Hey, I didn't know it was going to be this much competition. Maybe I got a friend down in the legislature that can limit the amount of people I got to compete against." And so, because none of the consumers want it, none of the people on the ground level here want it. We have a legislature that it's very Bible Belt based. We're in a very paradigm shift here, going from a religious base to a libertarian base, which I think that you hit it right on the head, Drew. I feel it's going from a religious base to a spirituality base, which is a big difference. Is let's accept everybody, and then let everybody be. You can have, like we have the largest population of Guatemalans in the state. We're a refugee point for Guatemala, so we've always been welcoming to the difference, and it's just a matter of legislators not knowing what they did. They do. They don't understand the cannabis world, which we probably have a better, because we know that the traditional market's still there, and that's part of it. The funny thing about it is, I'm a believer in full access for everybody. That you shouldn't have to cop to a medical card to gain access to cannabis. And so there's 300 and something thousand people in the state that have a card, and there's probably 1.3 million that smoke cannabis. So where are those other people getting it? And so that's
the same place they've always gotten it.
Exactly.
Right.
And so that's one of the big pushes we have as our grassroots is we need to go full access, because they're trying to tame the black market, whereas we know that never works.
Right. Yeah, eventually the markets will shift as they'll grow to the market will dictate where those markets go. And if in other states where the legislation and the regulation has largely preserved the black market or supported the black market, I mean, the way the regs went in California certainly wasn't an intelligent way to do away with the black market. I mean, they just created a safer environment for the black market to thrive. I mean, it's crazy. People are, and you know what the number one question comes down to, and you brought this up earlier when you graciously mentioned Boveda. We usually don't do a commercial. We want to talk about you. But what we discovered about 1.5 years ago, the narrative in the cannabis industry was about access. Everybody was talking about normalization, legalization, people having the ability to go out and purchase either through a medical program or in a lot of states, an adult consumption regulation. So access was the theme. Fast forward 1 year later, about the middle of the year, last year, the last time I went on a business trip was to come down to Chronic Palooza 2. Yeah. At the Crossroads Mall and hang out with you in, I think it was July.
Yep.
And the narrative has shifted. The narrative has shifted from access to a narrative about quality. And people are starting to talk about cannabis differently. Everybody used to talk about THC and CBD and maybe a few other cannabinoids, but not a lot. Now the conversation is shifting into terpenes, and it's shifting into this terpene for that condition. This terpene creates this effect. The entourage or the ensemble effect of the terpenes supporting the cannabinoids makes that THC number less critical, more important that the symphony is playing in tune with one another, the way the people are experiencing the flower. fascinating shift in the way people talk about cannabis.
Yes, extremely. I'm so proud of the Oklahomans because that conversation has already happened. And again, we are the recipients of the greatest brain drain ever. So all these people are coming in and they already have terps on their tongues. Probably smoking some of that Sunset Sherbet I got. But
what's that Sunset Sherbet terp profile look like? Do you know what's in that?
It's orangey and tangy and
so it's
sweet.
Lemonine.
And my brain says, "Oh, that tastes so good." That we had a conversation the other day about removing all the names and just having dispensaries where it's just put your nose up to the jar and your brain will tell you which one is your favorite. The terpenes will, bam. So the GMO is a big thing these days, right? The GMO, the
genetically modified organism.
Yeah, but it's not. Stands for garlic, mushroom, and onion.
Okay.
And they figured out a strain that tastes like that. Again, it's the terpene profile. And we were at an event last night, a public gathering where you can actually smoke cannabis and have alcohol in the same place. And there were samples there, and I tried one. And first thing I said to the guy was, I don't understand why people like smoking pizza, because it tasted like pizza. It tasted like garlic, mushroom, and onions. And it's amazing how these breeders are pulling out these terpenes to create these profiles. And like you said, for the medicinal side, there are certain terpenes that do certain things. And if you can breed towards that, you're breeding medicine rather than just a simple sour D.
You're going to get to a point where people are going to be able to look at a fingerprint or look at a print that depicts in a picture form what the terpene profile creates for the average consumer. And you'll be able to look at something and say, oh, that's got a lot of beta caryophyllene in it. I'm going to go for that because that really helps me with my rheumatoid arthritis. Or they're going to say, oh, this is heavy to myrcene, and myrcene is one of the most abundant of the terpenes that come out in these profiles. They're going to discover so much more about terpenes. And there's people, I've heard people testify. We've got a guy in Canada, Johnny Burfello up in British Columbia. He's in the business because he fell backwards off a scaffolding, cracked his back up real bad, and got on all sorts of opiates. And his buddy brought him a bunch of different terpenes. And just like you were saying, as he took a whiff of these different terpenes, he got to one of them where his whole body just relaxed. You know, he's got this chronic pain issue. The terpenes, just the smell of the terpene. It's not ingesting anything. He just, through his olfactory senses, he experienced the terpene and had this relieving effect. And he was like, wait a second, I got to get, whatever I get needs to have that in it. And they came up with ways to, and he was weaned off of the opiates because of the gift of the plant. Fascinating stuff. I mean, and you talk to some people and they can't get it through their head because of the old thinking from the Prohibition days. They can't get over the fact that cannabis can be such a profound game changer for so many people.
Yeah.
Tell us about the effect that it's had on your life. What's the I don't know how personal you want to get. I want to know all about you. I haven't talked to you in a while. I got to get to know you again.
Well, I do a ton of content online. You know, we go live every night. We've got all kinds of events we're always doing and things like that. So
that's at Grinder.
The Grinder.live.
The Grinder.live.
Yeah.
Every night, Wednesday through Sunday.
Monday through Friday, we switched.
Monday through Friday. Okay.
Yep. So we're on and we got our own page and we're on YouTube and all that kind of good stuff. What time
do you start?
We usually try to start around 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
We don't have roaming over to here, so we're always kind of all over the place.
You go late? You go to 11 or 12?
Oh yeah, we're weeders, man. We hang out and smoke weed and talk about weed.
Okay, so how has it impacted your life?
Well, for me, I was always a weed smoker. As a little kid, you know, you go out into the woods with your buddies and there's an older guy there or whatever. And somebody gave me some weed. I was always a troubled kid. They always had me down in the office. I was out of control. What's wrong with your kid? They took me in third grade. They had me repeat third grade twice because they figured I was just immature or something like that. I was still crazy. You know, they were still telling me that, you know, making me do Rorschach tests and all kinds of wackiness, you know, like I was like that kid.
They ever figure out what the problem was?
Yeah, what's wrong with this kid? So one day out in the woods, they were like, hey, we got this thing called weed. And I was like, yeah, this is a weed. And I smoked the weed, and all of a sudden, like, my world slowed down. Like, I wasn't so in front of myself. I wasn't so crazy and like, I could see things go on and all that. And so I was like, yeah, this is good stuff. Whenever I drank alcohol, I always threw up. I was always that guy.
But you smoked the cannabis and you felt comfortable in your own skin.
That was exactly what happened. And then I'd become a zealot for it. Like I was trying to tell people, like, this has changed my life, you know, and they're like, you're going to get arrested. You know, I come from a family where my father refers to it as dope, and you should, you know, execute every drug dealer so there's never a second time offense and all, you know, like,
It's a little rigid.
Yeah, well, we're from Philly, so it's always, you know, it's we're not angry.
From Oklahoma originally.
Yeah, we're not angry. We're from Philly. So it had always been there for me, and I'd always been a big proponent of it. And then I had one of the things that I got on the reason why I do what I do is because I knew they were lying to me. They didn't know the truth. They were just going what they understood. And so I thought to myself, well, if they said weed was bad and I love this stuff, how about all these other hard drugs out there? What are they telling me about that stuff? Is that a lie too? And so I got involved in all kinds of stuff that I should have never been involved with. And I gratefully woke up one day still with my sanity, and when the weed was always there for me. And so I continued on, and I did a college thesis on weed. They didn't let me publish it because it was I showed them how you could take your student loan and buy weed with it and then flip it and pay for your college education. It's like a weed. And they didn't like that too much. No, they did, but it worked. And so, and then my life went on. I'm doing good, all this stuff. I'm in an industry where the weed world isn't really the weed world, and I'm a closet user and all that. And so I start my weed gig and doing promotions all around the country for glass. I really got involved in the world of glass art and started following that. I started selling glass on the Fish Lot in 1994, and just being a concert guy, you know, out there in the weed world. And I ran across Jack Herrera's book, Emperor Wears No Clothes, and he really helped me see, you know, it's not just a weed. And then about coming up on 4 years, I was in Las Vegas. I was ready to sign a contract to open up a studio there. And we had gotten sponsorship to do how we were covering the AVN Awards and how adult entertainment and cannabis go together like peanut butter and jelly. I don't know if you know what the AVN Awards are or not, Drew,
I do.
But, okay.
I do. I was always out in Vegas for a tech convention the same week they'd have the Adult Video Awards.
Okay, so there we go. So I was sitting in a car and I got shot. Somebody came and put a .45 caliber through the door and hit me in the leg and shattered my femur. And really long story.
You were in a no parking zone. What was that?
I was sitting in a car. The influencer that I had found in the area turned out that he had a little bit too much influence in the area, and somebody wanted to off him, and I got in the middle. But it became a glorious shining moment in my life because my leg was shattered. I needed the opiates. I could not move my bowels. Trying to move your bowels with a casted leg on a toilet is almost impossible.
Not good.
No. And so
the opiates will plug you up.
Oh. And I ate 112 grams of RSO in 67 days. And it taught me about medical cannabis like I had
Rick
never.
Simpson oil, the original.
Yes, the original. And it was extracted like that. We used ethanol. We didn't use the original naphtha, because that's a little bit dangerous, man. So I had an ethanol wash, and I got it, and I started to anybody that's ever going to do large doses of RSO, break it up into doses. I popped 1.3 at a time, and I was freaked out. Like I would suggest if you're going to eat 1.3 a day, break it up into 4 doses. But it taught me really about how I might have got a little bit into the psychedelic plane of cannabis, which I don't think has been discovered yet, because the things that I was experiencing were from another realm that I might have been used to in another time and place.
But you got relief for your...
I didn't take any more opioids. I still have them sitting on my desk, just to say, I don't need you.
Yeah, landmark in time.
Yeah, and the doctor said my leg healed faster than 90% of the people that he's done. Now I got a rod from my kneecap to my hip, and I get massages because it tends to get crampy, and I use infused oil. Actually, Mary's Medicinals.
Oh,
she's in the state. Mary's from Colorado. Shout out to them. I use that on my leg, and it works absolutely fantastic. I've started to microdose with cannabis. I eat 100 milligrams of cannabis a day, which some people would say, man, that's not a microdose, bro. That's a lot but I don't feel it. It's become a natural part of my diet, and I really had to get some, because I was always the guy, I eat 10 milligrams and I'd be on the floor. I can't eat this stuff. And it's just a matter of a tolerance and becoming your body getting used to it. Which one of the things that I went on to telling you about all the people that I see, I saw a guy the other day, Arbuckle Tree Factory. He specializes in growing sativas. And his big push these days is that THCV, because the medicinal effect, he says, is incredible for THCV. Now, in Oregon, they have that THCV weed called Skinny that people can...
Yeah, because of the appetite suppression.
Yeah, which is... If me and you were talking about this 10 years ago...
It's the opposite of what... It's not about munchies. It's about taking your appetite away. Yeah, the THCV articles lately have just been blowing up all over the media. People's testimony about how THCV has affected them so much differently than carboxylated THC. Unbelievable. That, and then this, there's 2 forms of it. There's a Delta 8 version and a Delta 9 version. I think the Delta 9 version is the one that everybody's raving about. Yeah. Just over the top. Have you been enjoying that?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I got some of his stuff because he's been in the business a long time, and his experience is super long. And he said I'm a go-getter, because we were joking about how they think people that smoke weed, I don't do nothing.
You become a couch potato.
Yeah, he's like, but look at me, man. I'm fairly thin. I smoke from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep. I can't have nothing that's going to put me on the couch. I can't have something that's going to just have me eating all the time. And when I discovered sativas, that really drives me. And the thing that he brought up was they're starting to do clinicals with COPD and THCV.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's blowing me away. I thought I knew a lot about weed. I don't know nothing about weed. It's glorious time to be alive.
Well, and we're going to have a lot more research soon. I mean, there's a lot of the science is so far behind the curve, but it's coming. Yeah. It's coming. There's a lot of great discoveries to come. Okay, so I want to segue into I want to talk about Chronic Palooza, because you have another Chronic Palooza 3 will be happening on the 17th and 18th of April. It's coming up fast. Tell everybody what it is.
Well, it was I got to give a shout out to Carrie Chronic, who is the
Co-founder.
I don't even. I can't.
She's
I call
your
her.
side. She's
I
your
call her.
sidekick.
She's my sidekick. She's my spirit animal. She's supersonic chronic. She don't smoke weed. It's not her thing. You know. She's like margaritas, man. Look out. She get a couple margaritas in her. But she started this because she saw a guy on the internet. She used to be people that hire people. Staffer. She was staffing agent for models.
Yeah,
recruiter, staffing agent for models in the Dallas area. And she had a model that had cancer and he was going to die. And their paths separated and all that. 3-4 years later, all of a sudden this guy shows up at her doorstep and he's looking great. And she's like, "You're supposed to be dead." And he's like, "Yeah, no, somebody started giving me these gummies." And she was like, "Shut up. There you go, gummy, going to save your life like that." He's like, "No, seriously, like, I don't know what it is, but it did." And so he was like, "Yeah, okay." You know, like, "Oh, okay, that's one miracle. All right." And then she's got a friend that her child's got is epilepsy. And she said, "I gave my kid weed and the kids don't have that." And she's like, "Oh, my, I gotta do something about this." So she said, "Let's have a patient drive." Because that's the lifeblood of our industry here is the patient drive.
So this first one you did at the Oklahoma Fairgrounds, right?
Yeah, the State Fairgrounds of Oklahoma, which
how many people showed up?
10,000.
Who knew?
Yeah, it was free. It was free, and to medicate on the State Fairgrounds of Oklahoma, who actually also lead the country in incarcerating women. So it's the paradigm switch, right? We're seeing it go. It's miracles are happening here.
So 10,000 people show 10, up, and you have a patient drive, so people can get their medical card.
Yeah, we do 1,200 in the day. We've got 25 bands. I'm the MC of the stage. We're just there's so much love out there and positivity that people are just hugging each other, just to hug each other. Just, hey, this is unbelievable. Somebody keeps telling me to say, "Don't smoke on the State Fairgrounds." And I'm saying, if you can smoke cigarettes on the State Fairground, you can smoke cannabis. Go ahead, do it, because that's the law. You know, let's follow the law. You can smoke it on any place you can smoke a cigarette in the state of Oklahoma. You can smoke cannabis. So you don't have to tell me that twice. So we raged it. We had a great time. There was a cop that showed up, and it was to get the car that parked in the fire zone out. And then he left. He was like, "Yeah, you just can't park there. Like, have a good time." So that went off like awesomeness. So the next year, Supersonic Chronic says, "We got to go bigger. We got to go bigger." And so she found the Crossroads Mall, which it was supposed to be 420, and then the COVID came, and we had to move it to July, and it was one of those things where it's the war stories where it was a little bit on the brutal side. It was hot as Hades in there. The people, like, we had that fair out there, right? We had 28 ride carnival. Ain't nobody, ain't no chalice, ain't no High Times Cup ever do that, you know, or to Oklahoma, baby. So we got that going, but the rides were so hot you could hear the kid's skin melting on the thing. Going,
what's that sizzling sound?
Yeah, exactly. What's that smell? So fast forward, here we go. It's this year. It's Chronic Palooza 3. We're back at the Crossroads Mall. The weather should be no problem at all. We've got the headliners is Exhibit. He's going to pimp your ride.
Ramsey's shaking his head. He knows.
Yeah. We've got Saliva. We've got Bubba Sparks. We've got Cody Canada, who used to be the Red Dirt Rangers or something like that. That's the Red Dirt Rock out here. It's like probably not Roman's world, but Bubba Sparks, did I say that? Baby Bash. So it's an array. We've got a country, hip hop.
How many acts you got?
Well, each day there's 10 bands, local bands that have joined this music quest that they get to open for these headliners if they win the contest, because we're homegrown. We want to see people that got some talent come on out here, get up on the stage, do it. It's on Music Quest. You can find it over there. I'll get you some links or something like that on there. But some amazing artists. I mean, he's just like Roman knows. Like there's people in basements all over this country that are making like they should win Emmys, but they just don't have the access and all that kind of stuff. And so we're trying to give it to them. When are they ever going to be able to open for Saliva or open for Exhibit or, that kind of stuff? So that's what Chronic's all about, is like I'll help enable you. Like let's make this happen. Like if you have a dream and I can participate in it, then let's do this. So we got that all going on. There's a guy bringing his car show called the Crusaders, which is kind of the religious crusade kind of little slant on it. So it turns out I got the pleasure to meet him the other day. He's a medical refugee from another state that came here because cannabis became legal here. And the medical program was such that he could come here and get away from his state, which was had one dispensary and then made you have all these pre-existing conditions.
Yeah, it's like Minnesota.
Yeah, so he's got autism with the Asperger's spectrum going with him. And he's like, I just love to tinker. That's what I just get tinkering, and I just tinker. And he's got this Dodge and he's flipping up the hood and he's like, I'm so glad you guys are having this car show. Like and it's weed, and I didn't know this guy was a cannabis patient. And then he comes in, he's like, yeah, I'm here because I'm a medical refugee, which makes me kind of cry because people have to leave their homes.
Tons of people have left Minnesota trying to find the medicine that they need.
Yeah.
We just haven't figured out whose uncle gets the money yet. But Ramsey, I'm going to change your name henceforth to call you Roman. I just love that.
Roman. Oh, I'm sorry, Ramsey.
No, it's Ramsey, but I'm going to start calling him Roman. Our producer, Roman. I love it.
There you go.
No, don't feel bad. Everybody forgets his name.
Okay. I knew it was an R. I had it almost.
It's actually nice compared to some of the names people have come up with. Okay, so if I want to go to Chronic Palooza and I'm down in OKC on the 17th and 18th of April, how much is it going to cost me?
Well, $5.
Serious?
Drew, and if you need a ticket, if you're hit up hard, call me, man. I'll get you a ticket. Anybody else listening to that?
I'm not worried about me. I'm going to come and probably spend some money, but it's
any of your friends, anybody that's watching this, that you got 47 kids in your family and you can actually prove it. We're all about the love. That's really, we're going to break the record again for Patient Drive, because it is still Patient Drive.
And you're having a Jack Herer Cup.
Yeah, Jack Herer Cup. There's a lot of other events that have cups and all that. The reason I wanted to bring the Herer Cup with us is because Jack wasn't really about consuming weed. Jack was about you all can get high from this stuff. Like, it's great and all that. But wait a second. Don't forget, it'll run your car. It'll cure you medically. It'll make your clothes better. It'll, there's so much more.
Yeah. Different ethic.
Yeah, to that. And so we're about to begin the 17 days of Jack, which is going to highlight something that he said or something that he did for the next 17 days rolling up to the Palooza. You can get them at Ticket Storm. You can go to Chronic Palooza, get your tickets there if you're coming from out of town and all that stuff. It might be a little bit close, but if you're a medical patient, you want to get a card here for when you're here, you can get a hold of us. It might be kind of close. You might almost be out of time.
Oh, because you have to have a waiting period, like you're buying a gun?
No, it's not a waiting period. It's
administrative.
How fast, is the state going to do it?
Because the state has to issue the card.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're just tuning in, we're talking to Larry Reed, Man on Weed. He's one of my favorite Okies via Philadelphia. And he's an advocate. He's a patient. He's a proponent. He's a guy that's been working hard to spread the news about what the sacred plant can do for people. Larry, I think the world of you. You're a for being as unpredictable and undiagnosed as you were as a kid, you turned out to be a pretty swell adult.
Well, thank you so much, Drew. It's because I finally got into what I was supposed to do, and this is really what I was supposed to do, is to promote the world. My card says, And I better get it so I'd read it right. Oh, I don't got any with me. Well, I'm a portal of cannabis information.
Yeah.
And that's really,
and you connect people.
That's really what the.
And you've made a life out of helping people, helping them find what they need and helping them get connected to the people that they need to be connected to. And I'm grateful for your friendship. I want you to stay on after we get done. I got to ask you a couple other things. Larry Reed, don't miss Chronic Palooza. It's the 17th and 18th of April in Oklahoma City at Crossroads Mall. It will cost you $5 to get in. I got to tell you, last summer in July, we were so anxious to get out of town because of what COVID had done to us. And it was tough because it was super hot, and the effort that you put out and the people that did show up, it was fantastic.
Yeah,
we made a lot of great connections. I expect you'll have with the Jack Cup there. I'm sure you're going to draw a lot more cultivators, and we're kind of into cultivators. So we'll be there to help you with that. And
it's huge.
I can't thank you enough, man.
Thank you so much, Drew. From the time I met you, I knew we were cut from the same cloth because we're both out there and living our lives to the fullest. And so I forgot to tell you, on Sunday, there's also going to be 4 hours of micro wrestling. Yeah. Ramsey's like, oh, we are going, Drew. We are going. We got 4 hours.
I read that to Ramsey, or as some people call him, Roman, earlier, and he looked at me like, oh, you can't say that. This is let me say it so you don't have to. It's a wrestling event for small adults.
They bill themselves as micro wrestlers.
Micro wrestling. Okay, well, that'll be good on Sunday. 4 hours of
4 hours of it, and
wrestling.
There's pony rides and a petting zoo. Because Tiger King is actually from Oklahoma, there is a bunch of those kind of zoos that we'll have out there that you'll get to pet all kinds of exotic animals and so I've been out at because we have 150,000 square feet outside, right? We're the mall parking lot. If anybody imagines, Christmas time and you had to park all the way out there, we have that all the way out there. So I'm decorating the skies, Drew, because the future's so bright, we got to keep looking up. And so I'm decorating the skies with kites because Oklahoma has no shortage of wind.
Right.
And
we got some of your wind today. It's blowing like Oklahoma here. It's the wind is sweeping down the plain.
Yes.
Here
and
in
so
Minnesota.
we're going to, if you've ever had anybody put in jail, anybody that's died, anybody that's been a victim of the drug wars, we're going to write your name on the kite and we're going to fly the kites so that everybody knows they're still with us. That this party is for everybody, for the people that came before us, for the people that are going to follow us. And we're grateful to have people like yourself that help foster the dreams of us little folk out there, because that's all we are. I'm an individual. I'm a guy that loves weed. That's all I really am, Drew. And when I link up with you folks and we link up with the other folks that we out there, we do all those shows, we become a force to be reckoned with. And that's what we're here for. I'm gonna make sure my kids don't have to go through the same nightmares I did of hiding away and things like that, or anybody that's ever lost a child because of a drug war. No, it's got to end, and we're the guys to do it. Hell yeah, it's Oklahoma, baby.
Larry Reed, again, I don't know why I have a hard time saying that. Larry Reed, man on weed. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
This has been another exciting episode of Cultivate Live. We bring you the people and the technology that are blazing a trail in the cannabis industry. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.